Hey, everybody, welcome back to First and Goal. This is episode 4, the MAAC Championship edition. As many of you may have seen, we're dedicating this show to one of our former teammates from the 1994 MAAC Championship team, Sean Pierce. And Mike, if you're okay, I'd like to tell a little bit of a story of how we kind of got here and why we decided to do that today. If you're okay with that.
Go ahead, Chris. All you.
So it really goes back, guys, to last September. Many of you had seen at some point along the way that we had gotten together with the 5th Special Forces Group to present Coach Parity with an award recognizing his years of service. And while I was at the Georgetown game, I was getting actually text messages directly from Sean. And that process carried on for 2 or 3 days. One of the things that came out of that conversation was I had seen Kevin Doherty on the sidelines, and I was talking to Sean about it. And for one evening, it was probably about a week later, but at one evening we were kind of talking, going back, and he was telling me how important the Marist, the Marist community was, and his football experience was to him. And he specifically talked about the impact that Coach Doherty had on his life, and it actually how it channeled him into doing some different things with coaching his own kids, but also some youth in the area. And the conversation kind of tapered off. And then when I got up in the morning, I'd open up my Facebook, and there was a thing in my feed that it was actually a post from his youth football program saying goodbye to him because he had passed away that night. So it kind of took me by surprise because I was like, wow, I just talked to him yesterday. So I liked the post and kind of went on with my business, and I went on with my day. But as you guys know, within social media, every time somebody else commented, I kept getting these alerts, tags, and someone else has commented, and the more I thought about it, I just felt like I had something I had a message that I needed to get delivered. So I reached out to Kevin Doherty, and Kevin Doherty and I met here in DC. We got together, and I let him see, and I kind of let him take a look at a lot of those messages that I had shared with Sean. And frankly, guys, he was completely blown away and remorseful that he never got an opportunity. So, for us, when we were looking at kind of doing it, it seemed like a good thing to do and the right thing to do. And I was talking with Coach Butler because when I told him about the story, it really kind of focused back on a lot of the big fabrics that we have that have been in existence within the program. We always talk about coaching trees in college football or even the NFL. We had a forest of guys who went on to become different coaches. So with that, I would like to transition over. Coach Butler, thanks for coming in. But can you talk to us a little bit about what got you into coaching? And Coach Wilson, I'm going to ask you to do the same. But Coach Butler, when I talked to you the other night, you had told me that you were one of the first folks that actually stopped by to see Coach Willis right after he was announced, and kind of share with that some of your experience on that, if you would, please.
Sure. I live up in the Adirondacks for the most part, and I was down, still have a house in Hyde Park, and I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days after, Coach there, and I was driving somewhere in the Poughkeepsie area, and I decided just to go in, just say hello and wish him good luck and everything, and it was great. And Coach and I have talked a couple times. I'm totally impressed with everything that he's doing. I'm impressed with the staff he's got and just how quick and everything he is working. And how I got involved with coaching, it was my very first day of teaching in 1975. When I interviewed at Arlington, I had said I'd like to coach. And actually it was the second day, and the principal and the AD are knocking at my door. And I said, well, geez, I know I got long hair and I am wearing cowboy boots, but and I was wearing a leisure suit, this blue leisure suit. And I said, geez, what have I done? And they said, can we talk to you out in the hall? And the principal said, you wanted to coach. I said, the guy who was going to be the head coach, this is that freshman team, he can't coach anymore, so you're the coach. And I said, really? And that's how my coaching started. And actually it was a good year. We went undefeated. So, but that's how I got involved in coaching and progressed to being JV coach and then varsity coach, and then came to Marist for 8 years.
What year did you come to Marist?
91.
91.
Oh, I know Coach Millay. Coach Millay and I are good friends. Coach Pardee, I remember him in 77. I'm the head winter track coach at Arlington, and he was a shot putter. And Yeah, I've known him. He was at John Jay, and I've known him for a long time.
So I can tell you, Coach Butler, there's going to be some guys that are coming up in our first episode. You coached Matthew McDonald, and obviously, from a special teams perspective, because of being a kick returner, you're a beloved figure for many of us. So, Coach Willis, what
Thank
got
you.
you into coach? You're welcome. What got you into coaching, Coach Willis?
Okay. So first, my dad was my first coach and spent a lot of his time when he wasn't a financial services professional coaching youth basketball, youth travel basketball. So I've always been around teams. He was my hero, and getting the chance to watch him work in that environment more so than the professional environment he was in day to day, I found really inspirational. My dad did not grow up with much. That he had always wanted to just coach and maybe be an English teacher, but picked a different profession because he thought that was what worked for his family. So that was always something that was in the back of my mind. Loved playing football. Thought I wanted to work more on the sports lawyer, sports administration side of things, and had a great job that a mentor got for me at a law firm called Proskauer Rose in New York City. And then as soon as I sat down in the chair, I experienced what I refer to as my quarter life crisis. I didn't feel attached to the job. I knew that it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, but I couldn't articulate it. And I was still drawn back to the idea of teaching, the idea of competing, and what were my most educational experiences. And it was really simple. It was my football coaches, Bob Serace at Princeton, who recruited me, Eddie Morrissey, my offensive line coach, James Perry, the offensive coordinator, Dennis Goldman, the receivers coach, Sean Gleason. I could go on and on about the men who have coached me and mentored me, who were unbelievably impactful in my life and remain friends and mentors to this day. And in reflecting on that, I thought that was something that I would want to be a part of, and quit that job. Thankfully my parents were supportive when I called them to tell them I was taking a 90% pay cut to be a quality control coach at my alma mater. And I was fortunate to work with great people and get to move up in the world. But I've never lost that zeal for competition and for using football as a teaching tool to help young men get ready for the rest of their lives. And that's what animates me every day. So I feel it took me a little bit longer than I thought, but I also feel fortunate to have found my passion, my purpose at a really early age.
Well, that's great. Fantastic. So we're going to take a quick short break. And when we come back from this segment, we're going to kick off segment number one with our first group of players from the 94 championship team: Matthew McDonald, Rex Dixon, Rick Busaka, Mike Milo, and Petey Ford. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right. Thanks, everybody. Welcome back. We're back from break. Joe, why don't you go ahead and kick off segment one?
All right. Hey, guys. Good to see you. And the 94 team, first Division I championship team, the guys, I guess, really who transitioned the program from Division III to Division I, taking us to the next level. So you guys are much appreciated in our alumni group. So we got a lot of comments back and a lot of good questions, and we'll sort of get you guys talking to Coach Willis. But Matt McDonald, you're up. So you would, I guess you're the guy that still lifts a lot and is in the best shape here. So you were talking about what the weight room is like and what the are right now. And my son's on the team, and I've gotten some feedback from him. It's intense, and why don't you go ahead and jump in with Coach Mike, and he can fill you in a little bit more, because I know I'm getting a filtered version from my son.
Well, I'm training a lot of kids right now, and I'm not gonna say these new kids are soft, but a lot of these kids are like, what kind of thing do you like to focus on with your with the guys now? Like in terms of like, do you guys do testing and stuff from camp time? Like, what are you gonna be getting tested on? Because I remember when we got tested back in the day, which is probably why none of us can walk now. It's just like really heavy squat, bench. So what do you guys focus on a lot more now?
Sure. So I do believe in trying to create measurable progress for the guys. Otherwise, it's difficult to generate, real accountability and have successes to celebrate. Our number one goal is to get 1% better every day, to be process oriented, not outcome oriented. But of course, you want to have some benchmarks. So we did lift testing the first week I got here, referred to as week 0, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, when they returned from break. And we've been working through a hypertrophy phase. So in plain English, high volume, lower weight to build good mass. And now we're in a power phase where it's lower volume, less repetitions on an exercise, higher weight, with the basics of it being a fairly standard Olympic lifting plan. Hang clean being my favorite, squat and bench, though auxiliary lifts are all designed to present functional movement, prevent injury, work on strength and agility. We integrate plyometrics into every workout as well. We had a great moment today in the weight room. I think Joe's right. I have been fairly intense. We're trying to build a culture where guys realize that how accountable they have to be in everything that they do, and the nature in which you should move through a weight room. And some of these workouts are by design pretty grueling to test our limits and to build a brotherhood based around shared sacrifice. But there was a really cool moment today that was one of those sports movie type moments that you don't actually get that often, but like the center of an episode of television usually, where they were doing hang clean at 2 repetitions, and they were supposed to have gotten to the end of a 5-set workup and have been done. The idea is that they all would have been tired enough that they would have really been straining for their last couple of reps, and we would have moved on to the next block of exercises for the day. And it was very clear looking around that many of the guys on the team were outpacing what we had programmed for them, which means they're getting stronger faster than we thought they would, which is great news. So with our strength coach's blessing, I called them all up and said we were going to go for what we called an audacious single. Like I wanted them to put more weight on the bar than they thought they could do if they had finished their previous repetition well, and go and get it. And we had some guys, outpace their maxes they recorded 3.5 weeks ago by as many as 30 pounds on a day where they weren't supposed to be working up to their maxes. So that means that there are guys in the team in that particular exercise, that's just one measurement, experiencing really, really rapid and profound growth. And they got an opportunity to be celebrated by me and their teammates. I think it was as animated in a really positive way that I've been in a while. And I hope the guys enjoyed that. But it was all organic. I was so excited for them. And while that's a small victory, and there was a lesson learned later in the workout on, not having a victory and then becoming complacent. There was the middle of the workout, I thought there was a bit of a lull. And I told the guys that we needed to have these victories and then not let it affect our intensity. But it was still this really cool moment. And to return to your original question, in addition to testing, core Olympic lifting, we measure vertical jump, broad jump. We take weight relatively seriously, not so much in number, but more in body composition. And Maris has made investments in a new sports dietitian to help us even further synergize that with our world-class dining hall. And I think the line I use with the kids is great lifters aren't automatically good players, but good players are often great lifters. It's only going to make them better. No one's ever said that tight end would have been great if he wasn't so strong. and that's really important to our philosophy in the weight room. But the weight room hopefully will be a mirror of our culture. And for anyone listening, including the guys in this podcast, if you want to come to a workout, I'd love to have you. It's a very fun environment.
So Rex, I wanted to turn to you for a quick second. I know that you've spent some time on campus recently, but there's also some cool stories. I've done certain things, over the last 20 years, but I've always centralized things around Washington and the Georgetown game. You've gone on to have certain levels of success. One of the things that I've always bragged about you whenever I get a chance, because I got a guy that has traveled the world with John Madden and been at his home. I mean, God, any of us on this podcast would kill for that opportunity. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you do, what you've done with the Madden franchise, but also to support the program and had the folks down to the development studios.
Yeah. Hey, Coach. Nice to meet you. Welcome aboard the Red Foxes. I've been in video games ever since I left Marist, about almost 30 years now. And for 6 years, I worked for Electronic Arts Tiburon on the Madden and NCAA franchise, which is a role I would have never gotten had it not been for my experience as a college football player, my like basic working knowledge of football and plays and stuff like that. So we had a lot of success there. And during that time, Marist came down to play Stetson, and coach called me and we worked it out and had him drive both buses straight to the studio. We had him come in, check out the place, and then we filed him into our conference room where we had a captain from the offense play a captain of the defense in a Madden game. And we had our esports announcers come in and call the game and everything. Really good time. And then the next day they beat Stetson on a last second Hail Mary, and I got to be there on the sidelines. So it was really cool.
Hey Rex, was that
Yeah.
was that when Terrence Fede was in the league? I know there was another time that I remember seeing some photographs of where it was the first time you actually had Terrence in some of you had put him into the game. Was that time or was that another time when Terrence
it was later on. Every developer on the team, well, not every, but I was a director, so I got my way. You get to make your own card for Madden Ultimate Team. And, everyone picked their favorite star MVP player. And here I am. I'm like, Terrence Fede, that's the card I want. So they had to make a like 98 rated ultimate version of Terrence Fede. That's the origin of that story. Another good story for you guys, you might not know this, but back in the day, Coach, we used to run Syracuse's option offense. And Coach had this play in the playbook called 0-1 trap, which was a guard nose tackle trap. And I made him put it in the game for NCAA, and it made it into Madden. And it's been one of the most popular running plays in Madden to this day.
I have to put my hand up. I swear this is unironic. I was a lifelong dedicated Madden player all the way through college. I haven't played much since, though I did pick it up to play recruits during the COVID pandemic when people couldn't come on campus. I would play guys we were recruiting at my previous stop in Madden. Sometimes it went well, sometimes it didn't. But I vividly remember with the picture running 0-1 trap in Madden. So that is very funny because that's on my top 10 list of Madden play calls. And if you can't tell, I took the game very seriously. I used to joke that in retrospect, I was the only guy on my team in college who should have stopped studying on Sunday night and played more Madden. It taught me clock management. It taught me basic schematic football. So thanks for all you've done just for the game, because I'm being serious. Without Madden football, without NCAA, I probably wouldn't be a college football coach. It was directly inspirational in my life. So thanks for that. That's like a real just good you've done for the game of football.
So Rick, I want to come to you next. Coach, I know over the last couple of days I may have shared a PDF with you, but Rick Bazaka's on, and he's one of our most favorite guys that we've had, certainly within my graduating class. But he's got a rather unique story that he can tell. So Rick, I'm going to go ahead and pop you up, but I'm also going to pull up the PDF that you shared with me. Okay. So go ahead, Rick.
All right, you're a liar. These guys, they all hated me. Matt hated me. He's my best friend. He hated me. I'm annoying and I know it.
Not true. Hate's
I
such
got
a
a
strong
big
word.
mouth, coach, and I use it constantly. So, Chris, if you're talking about the leg, obviously, you got to actually say the word prosthetic. You're allowed to. It's not.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
I went through puberty when I was 18, and I thought that sucked. So I graduated high school at about 175, and right around there, I grew about 2 inches. And over the next couple of years, I put on about 35 pounds. And my dad was nice enough when I said, this just isn't fair, because my brother was like Rex's size when he was like 13. And here I am walking around like a toddler in high school. And I've always loved the game. And I was like, Dad, I got to play. It's just bullshit. It's not fair. I'm this size. So he's like, I'll tell you what, you get on a team, I'll pay for it. I don't care. Just make any team. So long story short, Coach Keenan, who Coach Butler certainly knows of, the Keenan family is like Poughkeepsie royalty, if you haven't met them yet. And they were my coaches in high school, and basically with a phone call to Coach Party, that type of clout, I thought, I was under the impression that I was going to a Division III school. I didn't know there were going to be guys like Mike Milo and Donnie Diudo and Julian Weiss. I didn't realize how good they really were. But I had already bitten off more than I could chew. I'd already made promises to certain people. I'd already dedicated years of my life to play football. So what happened was I lost my foot when I was a baby, learned to walk on a prosthetic, and in New York, you either fight or die. So I just played ball with the rest of the boys, the rest of the kids. I wasn't so bad until I got to Marist. where again we had athletes that I was like, wow, that guy is really fast or really strong. My welcome to college was Kevin Simonetti lighting me up, followed right after that Dave Caldwell in a tackling circuit, followed by Chucky Mullally doing the wham formation, taking me out, but I couldn't quit. So what happened was they would bust my chops. Remember when I had the ratchet set, Maddie, and you called me the lawnmower man when I made my own knee brace? So before practice,
That movie was popular at the time.
I had a ratchet set. I had a self-made. I put 2 bolts on either side of my prosthetic to protect my knee, and I used to carry a ratchet with me to practice. And these guys just laced into me, like literally, they just would sit there staring at me. But I was, who cares? But that's how you know you're equal, when they do feel very easy mocking on you, or when you, as far as I know, I got their best. Like nobody took it easy on me, that's for sure. Certainly not Maddie, who I never made contact with in 4 years, which is just amazing to me. And if we did have time, I would tell about the last hit of my senior year where Maddie sidestepped me in front of the entire team on the sideline in a wheel route, and I hit the ground without you because you let me dive right past you, and I hate you. I was very excited to hit my buddy. But what I really do appreciate about it, and I really do mean this, nobody cared. Coach Riley, what's his face? Matt Somick, a year or 2 younger than us, his favorite story, Coach, is we're watching film in the pitch blackness, and Coach Riley goes, now, Bazaka, you're going to have to give us some sort of identifying feature so we can know which one is you. And I go, I'm pretty sure that's me, Coach. And he goes, are you sure? And I'm like, Coach, I'm almost positive I'm the only guy out there with the prosthetic leg. Like, I'm almost positive. And of course, Somick had to chime in. And he's like, Coach Riley, I guarantee that's Bazaka. Like, is there somebody else out there we don't know? But anyway, it was the best time of my life, even though Mike Milo cheated in practice every chance he got.
So, Rick, you have any specific questions for Coach Willis?
Yes. Are you going to do live tackling circuits? Because Matt Thompson, recent graduate and middle linebacker, says he never actually tackled anybody in 4 years in practice, and I think it shows. No offense, Coach.
Well, we had one of the top defenses in the country at Princeton over the last couple of years. Steve Verbit, our defensive coordinator, does an incredible job. And the Princeton defense never live tackled at practice either. So I think if you are a great teacher of technique, it is possible to use skill development and varying tempos within practice to avoid some of the collisions that are higher percentage for injury, but still get you all of the benefits of live tackling structurally and through technique. One of our popular tempos we called thud, which basically allowed for straight on wrap tackling and some profile tackling. But in situations where you would have had to wrap and roll, you were encouraged to tag off, and there was ultimately very little likelihood that anyone ended up on the ground. And the yin and yang, because I agree, the best way to get good at anything is to actually do it. The yin and yang is that a much higher percentage of plays, unsurprisingly, happen when someone is tackled, not necessarily between tackler and ball carrier, but between the people around them, particularly offensive linemen. So there's a yin and a yang to it. The program I was just a part of was very mature in its cultural life cycle, a very continuous staff, lots of 3 and 4 year players, the same system throughout that time. I'm open to the idea that as we go through spring drills and fall camp, that we may need some live scrimmaging, but I'm proud of the fact that we were able to go full speed without full live tackling and be pretty good on both sides of the ball. And that is something that I do hope to model here, and to ultimately for parents to know that when they send their sons over here, they're going to be as safe as they possibly can be in a sport that is ultimately the highest form of contact sport.
So, Rick, your story was inspiring with humor mixed in, but the thought as I was listening to you talk is adversity. As a football player, right? We all face it, and then I feel like we all get life lessons from it. So, Mike Milo, why don't you talk a little bit about the life lessons at Marist through football for you? I know you had a couple of topics that you wanted to bring up, Coach.
Yeah, Coach. First, welcome to the Marist family. Enjoy the ride, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. A few things for you, Coach. The first is recruiting. How how is the NILs and the transfer portal affected like the FCS level, if it has at all?
So the transfer portal has definitely affected everyone. There is a enormous, give and take that comes with it. On the one hand, there is both the likelihood of your own players considering going in, and then the fact that people can tamper with them very successfully, and it's not very hard to do so, both illegally and in a gray area where you contact people like high school coaches and mentors to indicate interest. And it also, of course, allows us to make additions to our own team that can serve not as the foundation of a program, but as a way to amplify and the strengths of your roster and cover up some initial weaknesses. And of course, just inject competition and veteran players ultimately into your system that have the ability to contribute very quickly. I think the transfer portal is a reality at every level of college football. And unless there is legislation against it, it is ultimately here to stay. It is a permanent fixture. I think what's important for us as a Marist football program is to build authentic relationships and demonstrate value that don't lead guys to seek, the greener grass on the other side. And I mean that proverbially, not literally. The moment they have any success, or equally importantly, the moment they experience any failure. It is also worth acknowledging that the transfer portal is ultra saturated. And when guys go in, they are not legally obligated to still have a spot on the team. So it is still a enormous risk that people take when they go in. And that's something that I want to make sure that when guys ask me for advice or advising, that I'm careful with them about just how many people get left in the portal over a year. An enormous percentage of people who enter never find a home. But it is a lived reality of college football. As for NIL, that is not a lived reality of FCS football. It is not a significant challenge. It is not even helpful, really. The amount of money that it would require for name, image, and likeness to become sustainable is not sustainable for most FCS programs, if any. I think what's more important is that as guys ask for ways that they can help and show interest in the program, participating in our fundraising efforts so we can provide guys a great experience, whether that be through nutrition, increased football technology, really good equipment, the ability to have a robust recruiting budget, which allows us to find the best student athletes in the country and then ultimately retain them. Those are for those who are interested, because usually when NIL comes up, it's in the context of, can I help? What is there to do? Donating directly to our football budget is going to more effectively steward a great experience for our guys than any name, image, and likeness campaign would, because to sustain it for 110 players at a noticeable amount of money, you're talking at the bare minimum, somewhere between a couple $100,000 and $1 million a year, which is ultimately a non-sustainable goal for most programs. And it even extends well beyond FCS. NIL is not a reality in the group of five. It's really for the SEC and the Big Ten, and then a couple others in the ACC and some other conferences. But it's a very important thing at the upper tier, the college football playoff level of college football, and it's not very important in the FCS.
All right, just one more thing. I just want to switch over to the academic side. And I know, Chris, you mentioned this in episode 1. Many of us struggled that first year, and I know I definitely was among that group that got called into the office after the first semester, and my GPA was basically non-existent. And if it wasn't for football, and it kills me to this day, I forget her name, and I'm sure some of you guys remember Brenda. She was our athletic academic advisor. I have no idea her last name, and at the time, I really don't think I liked her. But as I've gotten older, if it wasn't for that woman, I never would have graduated. Is there something still in place where these guys can go to school, take on basically a full-time job in football, and still academically get what they need to get without ending up coming home after 6 weeks or 3 months?
Yeah, one of the things that drew me to Marist was their incredibly high academic success rate, and the fact that directly next to my office, our football coaches suite, is the Student Athlete Enhancement Center run by Miss Alyssa Gates and her robust staff, including Jalen Barger, who really are instrumental in every part of the academic process, not just for students who need mandatory support, but for all guys on our team interested in tutoring, academic support, class scheduling. They are a one-stop shop for helping our guys thrive. Our team GPA is in really good shape. We had 70 players on the Pioneer Football League academic honor roll this semester, which is something that we're really proud of, and I think speaks to the seriousness with which people take their academics here. And that was ultimately one of the biggest reasons I accepted the job offer here, is the belief that we could build a truly high academic football program here, that we could recruit guys who have the desire, the grit, and the academic talent. My very first meeting here was with Miss Alyssa Gates, who runs that center and is an absolute rock star. She is one of one in college football.
Thank you, Coach.
So, guys, let's go ahead and take a break. We're sitting at 40 minutes. We're going to be back with First and Goal. Petey, is it okay? Could you stay with us and kick off segment 2?
Sure.
Petey Ford? Okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks, guys, for Rick Buzaka, Mike Milo, Matthew McDonald. Thanks for
Nice to
jumping
meet
in,
you,
guys. We're gonna bring the folks back from commercial, and hope you guys can make it out to the spring game. I know we didn't get to chat about that, but it's one of the big things we're trying to do is bring folks back to support the program in the spring. So we'll see everyone later. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Thank you, guys. It would be great to have you on April 6th.
Good to see everybody.
Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Chop top, it says I'm gonna win big. Choose not to life of imitation. Distant closer to the reservation.
Back and so Pete Ford, you're up, the quarterback of the team, and you took over for Brian McCourt, I believe, right? Yeah, I see before you. Yeah. So I know in reading your bio, you want to talk a little offense with Coach Willis, and that question really intrigues me a little bit. I'm not sure how deep he's going to go into strategy, but why don't you go ahead and ask?
Yeah, welcome, Coach Tamaris. I wish you all the best. Basically, what's your offensive philosophy? What can we expect from the offensive side of the ball?
Sorry, Chris. We're going to have to go for the next Checks Watch 2 hours. Talk about this.
That's a good answer.
Short version.
So I will give I will try to give the shortest version possible. So my whole philosophy for building a football team is built around the idea of being fast, physical, and together in everything that we do. I'll first speak about that through the lens of building an offense. Being a fast offense first involves the idea of having the ability to operate at warp speed, to always be on the attack. We do not retreat from the line of scrimmage. We dictate how the game is played. We win the game between the snaps with how we operate. Now, that does not mean that we always have to go at warp speed. There are reasons to huddle. There are reasons to milk the clock. There are reasons to fake warp speed. But we should have the ability to operate as one of the fastest teams in college football. We also want to use clear, concise coaching points to allow people to play fast and play confidently on the field. And then finally, we want to recruit fast people, help them develop technically and physically to become even faster, and build schemes that allow them to showcase that speed, both in our vertical passing game, where we try to push the ball down the field, and in the ability to throw short and run long in the screen game, RPO game, underneath game. If you have kids who think fast and they play fast, both with their tempo and literally, you create explosive plays. We want to win the explosive play battle. There's a huge correlation between having two plays more than your opponent of 20 yards or more and victory. With that said, if we were a boxer and all we were concerned with was being fast, that would be the equivalent of only throwing uppercuts. And I think if you picture this as a boxing match, whether you know much about boxing, you know that inherently doesn't make a ton of sense. That's not how boxers fight. We need to also be able to win the efficiency battle. We need to throw body blows to wear out our opponent. And that is where being physical comes in. The fastest point between any two places is a straight line. We want to create a geometry problem for the defense based around a vertical running game. Now, we still have, as I mentioned, outside runs, screens, RPOs, ways to get the ball in the perimeter. We want to try to split the defense from the A gap out and be tough and ruthlessly efficient. Convert first downs, get the ball in the end zone, in the red zone, and then, of course, create some explosives in the third. If you're winning the efficiency battle and the explosivity battle, you're generally just good. You're going to have an opportunity to win every game. And what tempo gives you the opportunity to do is really lean into that efficiency arm of things, wear people out, use your conditioning as an advantage, train a team to play at high tempo on both sides of the ball, and be excited about lengthening the game to showcase that. And then finally, playing together is about vertical buy-in. It's about having a culture that we're all integrated into, about the shared sacrifice you give to your teammates, and about the fact that this is the ultimate team sport. When you sign up to be on our team, when you commit to that standard every day, you do not get to do things just for yourself. In fact, that shared compact you have with your brothers is animating you every day. And then finally, this game is serious, but it is still just that, a game. I want the guys to have fun, particularly on Saturdays. If I want them to have any anxiety ever, I want that to be the anxiety to prepare well, to study more, to eat well, to sleep well, to have great nutrition. On Saturdays in the fall, I want to go out and I want them to let it rip. And I want them to have a lot of fun doing it. I want 11 guys partying in the end zone on touchdowns. I want 11 guys to the guy who made a play on defense to go, celebrate a turnover. I want great buy-in on special teams. If we're fast, physical, and together in everything that we do, we should have the opportunity to compete against anybody. And that fires me up. I could go for another hour and 57 minutes, but that's a short version of it.
So, hey, Petey, I got a question for you. I know that one of the things that you held most dear when you played was the position coach. You always told me and shared stories about the quarterback room. You know, the guys that you played with. A lot of because of who we played for, but outside of that quarterback experience and with those guys, those by default those leaders of our offense. What do you miss most about Marist football?
I get the locker room, all the guys, seeing Bruce Harris, Brian Knowles, Bobby Marks, Omar, McGinnis, just all the fun we had in the locker room, laughing, and winning. More importantly, winning, because we all won. So that's the thing I miss the most.
Okay. Well, Pete, I appreciate you being patient with me. Obviously, I've learned a couple of things with regards to how to schedule some of these, and I was texting with Mike a few seconds ago. Maybe trying to do 15 guys in one evening was a bit much, a bit aggressive, but I do appreciate that you bridged over from segment 1 to segment 2 with us. Thank you very much for giving us your time.
No problem.
Thanks, Pete. I appreciate your patience. And what I told Chris is a championship team is especially worth celebrating. So, like I said, I'm here until the closing bell. Let's have fun with this.
So let's move on with Bobby Marks. So Bobby, we've all got on to certain levels of success. I would say, I talked a little bit earlier about how I always brag about Rex Dixon, but I can't tell you how many times I've been in a bar somewhere and I've looked up and I've seen Bobby Marks on ESPN. Bobby Marks is doing this. I know you're with the New Jersey Nets. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about what you're doing now? And if you have any questions for Coach, please jump in. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. Good seeing you guys. So I worked for the Nets for 20 years. Last 5 was the assistant GM there in Brooklyn. And then I transitioned over to the media. I worked for Yahoo for 2 years, and now I've been with ESPN for 7 years. As their NBA front office insider, I primarily write. I cover the finances, the salary cap, how trades happen, the draft, free agency. I sleep better at night. I don't have wins and losses to worry about. I don't have a screaming owner to yell at me or a coach or any of that stuff. So it's a different life than working for a team. I do miss being part of a team. I would say that's probably my biggest miss. And I've been down here in Southwest Florida for 8 years. So I got a couple questions. I got a fun question first, Coach. After hearing you talk to Pete and his question, I got a year left of eligibility. 50-year-olds up there in Poughkeepsie. I'll live in Champagne. It's all right.
Bring him on, Coach. He can catch and block.
We are open to anybody with eligibility who's fired up about what we're building here at Marist, or in your case, what you've already built as part of this team, Bobby. So thank you. Yeah, come on down.
All right. I think my kids wanted me to ask that question. I always tease them that I have a year left of eligibility. And they're like, when are you going to go back? And I'm like, no, I'm good. Yeah.
Bobby, last Thursday was a big day for you guys, right? The trading deadline.
Yeah, we had the trade deadline up. I was up in Bristol, Connecticut. We had the trade deadline.
My hometown.
Yeah, which is always a big deal. And now we've got All-Star Weekend right now. I'm not in Indianapolis, but we've got 27 games left before the playoffs start. So we're getting into our busy schedule here. Coach, I know Marist isn't USC or Alabama or in these high, these Division I powerhouses. But how does Marist handle NIL? Or maybe there isn't an issue with NIL up there.
Yeah, so a similar question was asked, Bobby, in the first round. So I'll try to give a similar answer with a slightly different spin. So NIL ultimately to me is, in addition to helping players get at that level who produce, billions of dollars in TV revenue, get some sort of the pie, which I am very much for. I think was born out of that desire to see them exceed, knowing that they were exceeding the value of the scholarship they were being provided at a place like Alabama, and giving them the opportunity to earn more in recognition of the fact they are functionally, in what they generate in revenue, in some ways professionalized, or at least deserving of a piece of that, even if they still have amateur status. I'll leave that to the lawyers. For us, NIL is less important because of the scope of the revenue generated, and then ultimately what that means about even budgets at this level. The football budget in Alabama may very well be over $100 million. I can't speak to that, but I'm sure it's very significant. Here, our budgets are more than robust enough, but they are not nearly at that level. So if someone is interested in the impact of NIL, what I hope it means is that they're at least curious about the idea of, to echo our first episode, moving from donating their time to donating their treasure to the program. And what I would say, without any BS, is that the treasure being donated to the players can most effectively function through me to increase our already robust football offerings, from nutrition, player development, weight room supplies, football strategy programs like Pro Football Focus and Just Play, the recruiting budgets that allow us to go recruit anywhere all over the country. That is a better use at the FCS level of someone's dollars and cents. My previous shop had a pretty large football budget for an FCS program, but even still, so much of the cool things we did was because of how generous our alumni were, and they're giving back to our program. But I think it's a small thing here, but donating could make a big impact.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. Brian, you're up now. A lot of guys were really interested in that, Coach, the NIL type of question. So, but Brian, I have one for you. Did you come in 1990 or 91?
Yeah, I came in 90. So I actually had a fifth year, which allowed me to play with the rest of the guys on the call here and win the MAAC Championship. 2 rings and a watch.
Nice. So, we got a couple of things that you wanted to really talk about. I think we've covered. So I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I want you to talk about going from Division III to that transition to Division I, and talk about the opponents, the talent on the field. And was it a significant change for you? Was it a slight evolution in the guys? Tell me what that was like.
I would say it was definitely an increase in the level of play from the time I walked through the door at Marist in the fall of 90 till I walked out, fall of 94. I mean, the fall of 94, we were playing Georgetown and Duquesne, schools that we had never played at Marist for years. I mean, I grew up 20 minutes from Marist College. I watched Marist as a Division III program for a long time, not thinking much of them until I actually got there. But yeah, the level of play, the going from in 1990 to St. John Fisher and the really small Division III schools to, similar schools like us, the St. John's, the Ionas, that, advanced from Division I up, but then adding in schools like Duquesne and Georgetown, I think that really started to make us feel like our program had changed. We'd moved from Division III to some surface of Division I, and at that time, Division I AA.
Well, we're going to be having the 1990 show coming up in a week or two. The recording of that, so lots of guys you remember from that era. So I knew your one of your questions was more along the lines of the future of Marist football. Is there another angle you want to hit Coach Willis with on that we haven't covered?
I guess, Coach, in your time recruiting, whether it be before coming to Marist and now at Marist, I happen to dabble a little bit after college in coaching over at St. Francis, which is what brought me here to the state of Pennsylvania. But what I noticed, at least 20 years ago, recruiting Pennsylvania kids is they start playing at the age of 5. Now, where I grew up in New York, we didn't have football at age 5. We didn't start football until like 6th or 7th grade. So by the time I got to high school and wanted to play, I still had a hunger for football. Like I couldn't get enough of it. When I was coaching at St. Francis and recruiting some of these kids that played since they were 5, by the time they were coming to college, they were burnt out. Fast forward 20 years, where now all kinds of sports are becoming year-round commitments. You don't see as many kids, dabbling in 3 or 4 different sports. Are you noticing any type of burnout with kids that you're recruiting that have played since they were 5, 6, 7 years old?
That's a very interesting question. I think the short answer is yes, that is definitely possible. And I think it's very important for me as a recruiter to identify every variable that goes into a young man's development, both untapped potential and things where they are fully tapped out, both things where they need to have new experience, things where maybe they feel like they've experienced most of what they can on a football field. I am very in favor of multi-sport athletes. I think it's an awesome thing. You see it both at the highest levels of football, but you also see it just in terms of injury prevention in young athletes. I think over-specialization at an early age leads to overuse injuries in whatever sport you're trying to do, and the really unique physical development that can be, but is not always advantageous. And I'm always looking for guys, both at my previous stop and here, who have untapped potential. Because, the fully maxed out guys who look like they're 28 when they're 17 are often going to go play at Alabama and USC and some of these other places. So if we want to coach people like Terrence Fide, who are going to be great players and have the opportunity to play at the next level and be impactful student athletes here at Marist, they very rarely are going to look like that when they're 17. And we have to be experts in identifying the traits mentally, physically, emotionally that are going to lead to more highly productive players, and then taking pride in being a developmental football program. Of the guys who I was fortunate to help put in the NFL at Princeton, very few of them had more than one other offer in high school. So we were famous for some of these big time recruiting battles we had won with the FBS, but took pride in that level of development. And I hope to emulate that.
Sounds great. Look forward to seeing you, Coach. Be successful.
Thank you.
It's a great transition, actually, because when you talk about multi-sport athletes, that brings us to Bruce Harris. I don't think there's a single person on this podcast who would disagree with the fact that Bruce was the most talented and gifted guy that the program had ever seen up to that point. And Bruce, you actually, I remember, I think it was our sophomore, maybe our junior year, you actually went out and you transitioned over and played some basketball for Marist as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
First of all, I'm really overwhelmed just by seeing everybody here, like Kevin and Omar Bivens. Like, this is truly it's just it's great seeing everyone. So I'm just really humbled just being here. But in terms of now, I'm still working. One of my passions, I got to meet Coach Party. That's who recruited me to Marist. Coach Party had a background in education. I'm sure everybody knows that. And we would talk a lot about that. So I actually work in education now. I'm a administrator for special education for the School District of Philadelphia. Oversee like 17 schools. I'm also a therapist who works with families who have serious children with serious psychological disorders. And I oversee the program for the city of Philadelphia and the surrounding community for Legacy Youth Tennis and Education. So I've stayed involved with working with youth. So, my experience with Marist, going back then, I had played basketball and tennis in high school. And, coming to Marist was really, and I talked to Chris about this, was just a transient time in that school's history. There was a lot of construction going on. We've talked about the whole, transition from Division III to Division I AA. But there was just so much going on at that time with the Route 9 was being rebuilt. It was just a lot of things changing. Bars, remember Rennie's and Birdie's, and I could talk about those places for days. With Bobby, I see Bobby in there late at night, and I was always running at a certain time at certain places, but that's a story for another day. But nevertheless, Coach Willis, I want to really, really welcome you to this family. Been just so impressed with just reading about you and your experiences and just listening to you here. I really wanted to ask you about, Brian talked about a little bit, but just even recruiting our region, tapping into some of these urban areas. Because, when I went to Marist, just being from Philadelphia, being from an urban city, there wasn't a lot of that going on. And so I just don't know, do you guys have a means of how you go about that, trying to recruit the city? And two, even for alumni, is there a way that we can tap into someone specifically if we run into kids that we see have the potential to come to Marist and would really be a good fit for the team?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first off, we're looking for the most talented young men, student athletes with great potential and great desire to achieve greatness on and off the field from all backgrounds. If you can play, if you're a great student, you have the desire to remain one and to grow, we want you here at Marist College. And I think when you listen to our president, Kevin Weinman, speak about his goals for the school and the composition of the student body, it's clear that diversity of background is very important, socioeconomically and in a variety of different factors. And we are doing, I think, a great job of looking all over the country and in those areas to identify young men. I can't comment on current recruiting classes, but I can, I think, be vague enough to say that that's something that we're hoping to have some success in already in our first class that we're building here at Marist as a new staff. As alumni, if you have someone you're interested in getting evaluated, I'll make it simple. My email is mike.willis@marist.edu. If you need me, shoot me a message. I'm on my phone, most every minute of every day while I'm awake, answering recruiting messages, interacting with our own players. That's the hub, for better or for worse, through which I live my life. So if you want someone evaluated, I will do that as promptly as humanly possible. Only time, the response time should be greater than a day. It's in the heart of the fall camp and the regular season. But just yesterday, someone reached out about wanting someone evaluated, and we were able to get that turned around in a really quick fashion. So you never know how you're going to hear about great players. Andre Yosivash, who plays for the Bengals, who's one of the best players I've ever coached coming out of the 2022 season, and someone who I'm fortunate to still be in touch with to this day while he grows professionally. We found out about him who from his home state in Hawaii through an alumni connection. And then we're fortunate I got to go scout him at another camp, and then he came to Princeton camp, and the rest is history. He deserves all the credit for that. But you never know how you're going to find great players who are great for Marist. And I'd be honored to hear from any of you if you have anyone you'd like us to evaluate.
So, Kevin, one of the things that we really, there's a number of reasons we wanted to get this podcast going, and for me, the most important thing was somebody just touched on it, is to get all the football alumni back involved and connected to the program, but then also give Coach Willis an opportunity to really meet everybody and really start to create genuine relationships. So I know, Kevin, you wanted to talk a little bit about, how the alumni can get more involved with the program. So I'll take it away.
Exactly. I want to, congratulate Coach Willis on this. And for me, it's like, I have two daughters. So for me, it was very tough to get it back to Marist and for the longest time. But I want to get more involved with, with alumni and with the Marist football program. What do you see, or what do you suggest for somebody like me, or, other people in the same, we're getting older and our kids are getting older, and we want to be more involved with the program. What do you recommend?
Sure. So the first thing I'd ask is consider returning to camp. First, we want your time. So we'd love to have you on things like this, our podcast. We'd love to have you at our spring football game on April 6th. We'd love to have you at as many home games or road games, if that suits your geography better, as we can possibly have, and to make that known to me via email so I can make sure that we can spend time with you guys and I can personally get to know you better and build authentic relationships. The other way that I'm hoping that guys will be able to donate their time is, as we enter this next fall, I'd like to see a return of our mentorship program, which is something we've done very well here over the years, and I think is a no-brainer in helping young men in their freshman or sophomore years connect with alumni mentors in similar fields. Like Bruce, as you were speaking, I was thinking, I got to connect you to one of our running backs, Lincoln Cardillo, who is very interested in special education and is someone who I think would really hit it off with you and benefit from your mentorship. And then finally, and of course, I don't want to be disingenuous. I also genuinely don't want to ask too early, but there is both the need for general injection of funds into our program to plug holes there and there, but there are all sorts of larger capital projects related to video software, opponent analysis, general football research, sports-specific nutrition, weight room enhancements, football equipment enhancements, recruiting enhancements, both budgetary and practical on campus, that I am happy to speak to anyone with on a one-on-one or larger basis, or even in this forum at times, about ways that your dollar can travel far. Time first, then if it's interesting to any individual, treasure, because there is power in participation, and I'm excited about that.
Great, thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming on. I know it's been, at times I've been texting at some really late hour, some late times, but we're going to wrap this segment up and we're going to go into segment 3. So Petey, Brian, Bobby, thank you guys for coming on. Thanks for giving us your time. And more importantly, thanks for reconnecting with a bunch of us. It's been really a great experience for me, and I know for Coach Willis as well. Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Nice seeing you guys, man. Love you guys. Seriously.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Chris and Joe, for putting this together. Coach Willis, best of luck.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, guys. This has been a blast. Can't wait to meet you all in person.
Oh, yeah.
Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Chop top, it says I'm gonna win big. Choose not to life of imitation. Distant closer to the reservation.
Nice to see you. You had some.
How you doing?
Good, good. You had a couple of good topics you wanted to talk about. There's two that I think it's worth. Where you're from in Houston, I think for recruiting is one.
Correct.
Is a good one for Coach. And then I really liked your question around the financial aid package and communicating that. So why don't you tee those two topics up for Coach?
Correct. I'm in Fort Bend Independent School District. That's where I'm in the greater Houston area, which is a suburb right outside of Houston. And we have a lot of players that have come through our school district that have gone to play big time football and actually gone on to the NFL. But I also tell a lot of guys about Marist, and they're like, huh, what? And a lot of times I'm trying to get these guys to come out this region to at least see the Northeast. And Coach, if you come down here, I guarantee you'll find something that's going to win. And I'm always trying to pump it up. The Marist softball team has come down here and they played against Texas A&M and some of the schools in Houston, and I've showed up. And they've met me as an alum. You have some alum in Texas too that would love to contribute. And as far as the financial aid package is concerned, a lot of times people see the sticker shock value of Marist, the cost of attendance, especially from down south here. And I was wondering, is there anything creatively that we can do for a kid that's maybe so far out of state?
Yeah. So first off, thanks, Omar, for coming on. I can think if you guys look closely at the composition of my staff and where they've recruited, you can see that not so secretly, expansion in Texas is going to be a priority for us. We only have one guy on our current roster from Texas. I can't comment on our current recruiting class legally, but I can tell you that we have spent time investing in building relationships in Texas, and we're reaping rewards from that very quickly. Mike Horan, our defensive coordinator, and Adam McGuire, our defensive backs coach, have spent much of their career recruiting and cultivating talent from all over the state of Texas. And that is a state that was a foundational state for our program at Princeton. So we are planning to make long-term inroads and make Texas specifically a second home for us out of region. Deeply, deeply important to me for a variety of reasons, most especially great football, great schools, families that value, and players that value the combination of great academics and great athletics, and who can see the value in what we're building here at Marist College. As it relates to financial aid packages, in the Pioneer League, you are not allowed to give any preference for football recruiting. You are allowed to give out need-based aid and merit aid that reflects, institutional norms and priorities. So what we're lucky to have is that is that we have competitive financial aid that we can be really proud of, that allows us to work to get into areas all over the country and present packages that dramatically reduce that initial sticker shock as young men go through the process here and are awarded things based on those two factors. And it's something that allows us, I think, to be competitive with many other financial options throughout the country to play Division I college football. So very,
Definitely,
very,
Coach.
very
I'm
excited.
with you.
Very, very, very excited about growing in Texas. And I can't promise you this cycle you'll see me in Houston specifically. I can promise that in the next year or two, in the winter or spring, I will be in Houston. That is a place where we will have boots on the ground.
Look forward to seeing you, Coach.
Me too, man. Let's go.
All right.
So, Coach Ryan's got a quick question for you. I promised him, he could throw one in there. So
Ryan, you can ask as many as you want, man. Let's go.
All right. What do you want?
As
What do you want?
many questions
What do you want?
as a. So when Coach, what was last coach?
You were going to ask him if you could still get. Do you still go?
Yeah.
You still get to go get the tea during kickoffs at home games?
Deal. You absolutely can go get the tees at the
I'll run
kickoff at
as
home
fast
games.
as I can.
Okay.
I know you will.
And,
And the fact that you take pride in that job and want to ask to do it is why you're getting it. Now I'm going to have to go watch the film and put a stopwatch on your game speed so we can improve. But you're always welcome, Ryan.
Okay, and you wanted to ask Mr. Beezer to critique your techniques here, right? You're going to be working it. So Beezer,
Yeah.
you were the Jason Myers before there was a Jason Myers. So
Something like that. Yeah.
Brian just wants you to give him a little bit of a critique here. This was filmed this past week, but we've been working with him. Ryan is a federated soccer player from Spain. He's not even allowed to play youth soccer without permission of the National Federation from Spain. But we're working.
Wow.
All right.
Awesome. Let's see it. You gonna
22
play that
yards.
video? There we go.
Yep, wide right.
That was awesome.
Good from about
Phenomenal.
25.
He drove that thing right through. Followed through.
Nice.
Finished towards his target. That was phenomenal. That was, what is that, like 20, 22, 20?
22. Yeah, it was 20. Yeah, it was 20. It was
That's
22.
awesome.
So
Yeah, that's with a T.
that was with
Ryan,
a T.
Ryan,
Okay.
forget retrieving the tee, Ryan. Are you eligible to kick yet in the game?
Sign him up, coach. Lock him in now, coach. You got it.
Never too early. Now, technically, you're not a prospective student athlete yet, so these are just hypothetical conversations. But should you want to kick and had you completed high school, I'd be very excited.
Great job, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Hey, Bees. So I know that you got to see something a little bit earlier, and a lot of the other guys did not yet. But we've dedicated today's podcast to Sean Pierce.
Yep.
Why don't you talk to us a little bit about Sean? But more importantly, I shared with Coach and some of the other folks about my experience with in my last communications with Sean back this past September. But you had something similar, and then maybe bring us up to speed of what's going on in the world of the Bees. Thanks.
Yeah, no. So Sean was a great guy. I believe he transferred in from Dean Junior College. He played on the defensive side of the ball. I played on the offensive side of the ball. So we didn't get to bond quite that much while we were actually at Marist, but we became better friends after the fact. Being both Notre Dame fans, we text each other during the football games every Saturday when the Irish are on. And so we kind of had this long-term relationship. We ended up just building over just common interest for Notre Dame. Anyway, long story short, I was talking to Sean probably a week before he passed away. My son was looking for a job, and that's the one thing about our group of people is we've always had strong relationships after we graduate and we moved on. So Sean was actually looking for jobs for my son, trying to help me out. I'm like, Sean, I really appreciate it. So he ended up calling. We talked for like an hour. And one of the things, actually, one of the questions I was going to ask Coach about is we talked about the portal a lot. One of the things that we were discussing is the strength of Marist football has been the brotherhood. You're in the trenches, 4 years with people, and you really live and die with these guys. And I think the portal, while it's a great opportunity for people to if things aren't working out to go somewhere else, I think it gives people an opportunity to take the easy way out sometimes. If they come up against initial failure, you know what, I'm not happy here, I'm bailing into the portal. And my fear there is, how does that disrupt? Because that's also a shiny new object for the coach looking for those types of players. So I guess one of the things I wanted to know is how you feel about the portal, because my fear is that could be a disruption to what we've built this whole program about, is 4 years of camaraderie and strength as a fist. So I just wanted to see get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, at my previous job, we were also a non-scholarship institution, which should have made us unbelievably vulnerable to the portal. And we only lost, I think, 3 undergrads in the last 9 years that we were there. meaning guys who didn't transfer just for graduate school. While there are a number of reasons, including on-field success, that I think contributed to that number being so low, I think the brotherhood becomes a major selling point. We want to build an experience that guys want to be a part of it as they and their parents invest in a Marist education, because this is Division I non-scholarship. No one in the Pioneer League or the Ivy League goes to school, or should I say almost no one goes to school completely for free. They would have to qualify for full need-based financial aid. I think it's very important that you demonstrate value and you create an experience that is hard and challenging, and there's shared sacrifice, but also you're treating people the right way. You're demanding, but never demeaning. And I think that's a very fine line that some people struggle not to cross. And that I'm proud to be firmly on the demand side as we push people to be their best. As it relates to the portal, it's just a reality now that there is a vacuum in all directions. I do try to educate our guys on the pros and cons of it. The vast majority of people who go in the portal end up without a home. It's an overwhelmingly tough thing to try to do. And if guys want to go in, that's something that I'm happy to have a conversation with them about, to try to educate them on the risks, which include not having a spot here at Marist if you choose to go in, as there's demand from other transfers coming in, and more importantly, four-year high school players who want to join our program and are excited about the brotherhood that we're building. So I am cautiously optimistic that we can build a program that people want to be a part of, and with very rare exceptions, want to stay for those 4 to 5 years. And then we can also use it to our advantage to inject some veteran leadership, some talent, and the right kind of transfers into our program who can help us achieve our goals in a reasonable fashion. But you have to be aware of it. You have to understand its pros and cons, and you have to make it work for you and hopefully be a differentiator in the marketplace.
Thanks, Coach. So Roger, we're gonna talk to you next. When I read through your bio, you brought something up that you were the first of the many that we've received, and what you wanted to talk about, and it was the atmosphere at Tenny Stadium and what ideas Coach might have really to amp up, the atmosphere on game day. So why don't you take it from here?
All right. First, Coach Butler, great to see you, man. I haven't seen you
Good
forever,
seeing
and
you.
I miss you, man. I miss you. I miss those one-on-one days too that we used to have. But and the other thing too, tell Ryan we could have used him in 1992 when Beazer hit the upright on a 45-yard field goal to win the game.
Yep.
We could have used him.
CW post.
But no, he hits the upright. Coach, thanks for doing this. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. It means a lot to us, and we really appreciate it. My question has to do more with the atmosphere, like Joe said. We've seen Marist kind of grow as football players into the stadium that it is, and kind of getting the fan base that it does. And I just, I want to pick your brain. What's the most important factor to keeping that fan base going and to kind of build it up? Because I would love to be able to see that atmosphere that's great for players and a great sports experience for, us as alum and just fan base in general. So just, I guess, some ideas and how you're going to build that fan base and engage with fans on and off the field to make that a home field advantage for us.
Well, first off, that's an awesome question, and one that I'm really passionate about, because I think home field advantage is a very real thing and should especially serve as an advantage at Marist, because while we play in a national conference and we get on a plane to play all of our out-of-conference games, the same is true for our home games. Everyone has to take a long trip to play us. And I'm confident that we've made investments in our travel budget, the fact that we charter our flights to road games, stay at great hotels, that our guys are not at a disadvantage when traveling. I have no idea how other teams travel in our league, but I know we're first class in what we do. And there's nothing worse than a long flight, maybe not a great night's sleep because of time zone changes or whatever, and then a loud stadium to play in. I think first off, people want a winner, and they also want to see continuous improvement. So it's our job as coaches to prepare our players to set them up in such a way that they're able to put a product out in the field that people can be proud of. It can win or lose, see a team that is fighting for all 4 quarters and proud to wear that Marist logo and represent our community. Next, the school has made an investment, I think, in creating a fun game day experience for alums, their families, and for just general fans through food truck experiences, things for both adults and kids to take advantage of. And I think as we hopefully continue to grow in our competitive nature and win as consistently as possible, compete for championships, people just enjoy being a part of something bigger than themselves. Both guys like you, as former players who are truly connected, who are partners and brothers in this program, just general fans who want to feel inspired and want an opportunity to witness and participate in greatness. So I love our stadium. I love the fact that we can actually pack it. I've played and coached in a lot of bigger stadiums where even with a great crowd, it can seem kind of empty because there's 40, 50, 60,000 seats. Our stadium is intimate. It has the capacity to be energetic. And the scene I want all of us picturing as we look forward to Tenny Stadium future is, you guys as alums, the stands are packed. You guys are lining the field because you want a closer look at the action. We score a big go-ahead touchdown or make a huge field goal to win the game. And as our players are in the end zone, I want you guys so deeply invested as alums in this program that you're behind the kicking net and every part of you wants to charge out there. And because you're mentors to our guys, every part of them wants to jump into your arms. And then you both stop just short of an actual excessive celebration penalty. And it turns into a great photo op and one of those moments that you really remember. Our defensive coordinator, Mike Horan, came from Harvard, and there's a funny clip that lives on his install videos for a particular coverage where they have an interception and the wife of the defensive backs coach at the time and his wife actually go running down the fence at a setup similar to Tenny and actually end up high-fiving one of the players that had a pick six. Thankfully, it was not called for a flag. But moments like that where we go right up to the line and you have these great moments of brotherhood, that I can so vividly picture in my mind's eye. There's evidence of it already happening. We had some home sellouts last year, and I want that to be an every week thing. Last thing I'll say on a lighter note, my family, my wife, and especially my mom are notoriously serious tailgaters. So if you're here on our kickoff for September 7th, there might be between 50 and 200 Italians between ages 28 and 89 tailgating in the McCann parking lot from 7 a.m. till kickoff. And I'm sure they'd like you to stop by and try a meatball or a breakfast burrito, or if you're feeling dangerous, a combination of the two.
Challenge accepted.
So, Coach,
Challenge accepted.
yeah. So Coach, I know one of the big things we're trying to do is get people squared away and in for the spring game. As part of that spring game, we're talking about a bigger, broader tailgating experience there. Why don't you chat a little bit about that before we bring in Ken?
Yeah, I think in an effort to get guys to spend more time around the program, Chris and Joe are doing an unbelievable job of being able to facilitate. There'll be firm details about exact time later, but we're going to have our spring game on April 6th. It's going to be an awesome opportunity for our alumni to come back and connect. We'll have an alumni tailgate after where you'll get a chance to interact with me and our staff. And I'm really, really looking forward to getting the opportunity to meet with each of you in person and engage in some fellowship around the program and build the authentic bonds that will draw you guys back and make you feel connected, because I want our alums to feel like brothers and that you've already been a part of it and you're forever connected to this program, regardless of what you do. And then ultimately partners who want to stay actively engaged and feel, really bonded to the program. Of my top 10 clips at Princeton of great touchdowns on offense, on 7 or 8 of them, there is in one of our, the heads of our football association nearly stepping into the end zone when we won our homecoming game this past year. He did think very hard about chest bumping and high-fiving our tight end who scored the game-winning touchdown. And you see him realize he's about to actually enter the end zone and stop. But I want people who want to do that, who are racing down the sideline. I'd rather get one sideline warning in the next couple of years than have no one there.
Awesome. So Ken, I'd like to kick things over to you. I mean, because of we had a little bit of an issue with this call, and we never tried to do this with 15 guys. Lesson learned for me. But one of the things that we talked about earlier was we talked about the concept of in college football or even in the NFL, the coaching tree. What I was explaining to Mike was it's more like a whole forest here, and you've been a big part of that because you're local within the Hudson Valley, you're local to the Poughkeepsie area, but you've been a big supporter of the program, but you also stayed local, and you're working within the educational organizations and institutions right around the Poughkeepsie area, but you're also involved in the coaching. So why don't you give us an update of where you're at and kind of keep us and wrap things up for us?
Yeah. So it's first of all, it's an honor to be here. Chris, thank you for really taking the lead on this. It's something that a lot of us as alumni were kind of, very interested in, what direction and how we would kind of, continue to support the program. So to have a program like this, to be able to sit with coach and just, be able to just kind of, get to know, each other and, welcome him to our family and and kind of see what his vision is and really buy into those things is an amazing thing. So coach, I know you got 70,000 things on your plate right now. um and it's something that taking the time to meet with us is, time is one of those pieces that we never get back, so it's really appreciated. And obviously thank you from all of us to you, in that. um my story is really, so similar to these guys. It's something that played my time at Marist, and then I was very lucky in that, being a double major at Marist, it allowed for me to be able to become a grad assistant, be the first grad assistant there, with the football program in athletics. So from there, did my grad work, worked 5 years in the office, and then you know typically, as a lot of you guys know, you get to a certain point in coaching, in college coaching, where you have to make that decision of, am I going to, make a, go to a very steady and safe career, or continue on in the college coaching world, which is, it's a very up and down and all over the place field. And, a lot of us make that decision, and I did as well, to leave and go to high school teaching and coaching. And, currently, right now, I'm literally right up the road, home of two Marist football alumni, Brian Oles, who I believe was going to be on earlier today, and George Corso. So I'm right up the road at Franklin Delano Roosevelt High School. It is something that it's been one of the best privileges of my life to work kind of hand in hand with Coach Parity, continuing the program, building the program, seeing it, and seeing it from close, being a part of it, and just helping as much as possible. And it's such a, we use the term family a lot, and a lot of these guys talk about it. It's something that I think a lot of us live it too. My son was he graduated college, and now he is in Alyssa Gates's office at in academic advisement and student enhancement, working with the football team now. So I mean, it's something that for our family, Marist, our relationship with Marist, it's a very important thing. And, it's one of those things that you couldn't be prouder. So I look forward to, continuing to build that relationship, with Coach.
And I've got to interrupt. Jalen is an absolute star who, in addition to being a huge part of our recruiting efforts, as someone who's the father of a 2-year-old, I could only hope that my son has as much class, professionalism, and is just generally as fun to be around as your son is. And he has been already instrumental in our recruiting efforts as well. Was incredibly well received on one of our official visit weekends. So thanks for all you've done, Ken. Ken also is, if I could shout him out, because I've known Ken for a little bit professionally. Ken's a state champion. Ken is involved in one of the premier sports companies in the world, both as a scout in the recruiting services and in their wearable technology. He does a lot for the game of football at every level. So thanks for all you do, Ken. Thanks for what you've done for Marist. And special thanks for letting me hang out with Jalen. He's a good dude.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. And the honor is really mine. Coach Parity came to my wife and I, to our wedding. I've had family members go through Marist, 7 family members. And it's something that, it's just a very special place. And there's no real way to quantify that other than, each of these guys here and Coach Butler, obviously we remember all, if you haven't walked up that hill after a double session practice, going back to the cafe, I see Roger shaking his head right now because we all know that, right?
Yeah.
Finishing with the hundreds, and then trying to, go through, Coach, the one thing I do want to ask is, will the players get the awesome experience of using the shed at Northfield as the locker room, as per tradition?
Told you.
So I've learned a lot about the Northfield shed. I do have to be a little bit the bearer of bad news that as facilities have grown, it's actually come to my attention that we haven't used the Northfield shed for camp in at least the last 5 years. and I don't think we're going to go back. I can't lie. It's my job to be direct and honest. But I hope to embody all of the grit and toughness of a Northfield Shed team in everything that we do.
I mean, you talk about team bonding and family building. I mean, it is something that very rarely, to experience the Northfield breeze, in the middle of August is one thing, but then to go in and experience the breeze in the, in the shed is a totally different experience, and it's something that we all kind of laugh about it now, and it was something that it's one of those pieces that makes Marist unique and interesting and all of that. So I guess maybe if we don't have the shed, maybe Coach Butler can donate, or maybe Raj and Bees, some of the guys, we can come back and have an alumni graze day where the players, you can see all the guys laughing. It's something that would be a real throwback. Would be amazing to have the Russell Athletic graze for the players one day, and have them kind of go in our shoes a little bit. That would be a humbling experience for these new guys.
I'm open to any unique form of team bonding. So we'll have to take that one offline, but I'm all ears.
You got it. You got it.
But hey, listen, I want to thank you guys because you guys put up with a lot tonight. 15, trying to squeeze 15 guys into 3 segments. It's been an experience. I'd like to wrap things up. Coach Butler, you are our special guest. I told you before, you are, your family within Marist, but more importantly, your family to all of us. Any final parting advice for Mike Willis as he starts to prepare the kids for their first season under his leadership?
Well, Coach, you can see great team. It was an honor for me to coach some of these guys for 4 years, and it's hard to win a championship. There's a lot of things that go into that. You need to stay healthy. You need your support staff and everything, but you can see Beezer brought it up. It's brotherhood. My deceased wife, she never understood the brotherhood. To one year, she saw a picture of me, that one picture that Chris put up there of 92. And she said to me, I get it now. What football is. She says, that's your happy place. True, I was, a history teacher, department head at Arlington, which was great school district and everything. But football has always been such an important thing, of my life. And I think you can see Coach from these guys, take it from an old coach who on April 6th, I'll be 73, but I'll be there for the game. I'm going to change any plans I have. I'll be there for the spring game. And the thing that I see is what all these guys have grown up to be and everything. Roger, Beezer, all these guys, Kenny, I see him a lot and everything. Pete, these guys, just how successful they are. And that's important. And Coach, you'll do fine. There's no doubt about it in my mind.
Well, if I could have half the impact you've clearly had, Coach, I think it would be a pretty cool tenure here. And moments like this where people who won a championship are back together almost 30 years later to celebrate that are what makes, to your point about people who do or don't get it, I think everyone on here understands the power of and the brotherhood that comes with being a part of a great team. And the chance to help guys have that experience at Marist is why I consider myself so fortunate to be the head football coach here. So thanks for all you've done, Coach, and thank you, both to the alums who have already been on this call, and to Roger, Chris, and Ken, and then especially Chris and Joe for hosting, for allowing me the privilege of being a part of the Marist football family. I mentioned it on my first podcast, but I'll mention it again. My Marist connections run very deep. This place is deeply important to me and has been since the moment I was born, and just honored to be here. It's a special place with special people.
Well, listen, guys,
Awesome.
We're going to wrap things up. Thank you very, very much, Beezer, Raj. I'm sorry I
You
didn't
got
have the Nixon mask, but I'll try to bring it back for you.
Thank you, guys. Good
Let's
seeing
wrap it
you
up,
guys.
everybody. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks,
for
guys.
jumping in with us.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you,
Bye,
coaches.
guys.
I'll see you. Bees,
Coach,
take care,
Coach,
Kenny.
you too,
Roger,
Coach Bart.
good
Love you,
seeing
buddy.
buddy.
See you, boys.
Bye. See you guys.
Bye.
Oh, wow.